Hey, Chip, it's got to be fun in Washington for people like you.
Well, when isn't it fun here, Glenn?
Could you please, before we get to the Palestinian refugee pipeline, could you please tell me what the people, especially the Republicans, were thinking with this anti-free speech bill?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a bill that has caused a significant amount of concern over the last basically 72 hours. I frankly wasn't even aware. I think we had some anti-Semitism bill. I thought it was kind of more like a resolution, just, condemning anti-Semitism, which I'm not a big fan of resolutions and all that kind of stuff. Oh, let's do something for a message. You're not going to change crap. You know what's changing things? Guys like, Ben Sass, the president of the University of Florida, saying, hey, we don't run a daycare. There are consequences and just, taking action and stopping it. Or the president of University of Texas, Jay Hartzell, just clamping down and saying, nope, no encampments. You're not doing this crap here. You can speak. You can say what you want. We're free speech, but you're not going to block everybody's ability to go to school. That's leadership. You go after crimes. You go after activity. You don't police speech. And what my foolish Republican colleagues did in the name of political expediency, because they wanted to seem like, oh, look at us, we're going to go take advantage of this political moment, and we're going to go out and we're going to pass an anti-Semitism bill. You're going to then put out a document or a bill in statute that links to an international organization's definition of anti-Semitism, which rattles off examples literally referenced in the statute that define what is anti-Semitism. And it's a whole bunch of speech and thought and act, and the kinds of things that we shouldn't have the federal government, especially the Department of Education, policing. It's thought police. It's nuts.
The gospel of Jesus Christ, a Jew himself, would fall under hate speech with those rules that they passed yesterday. The gospel.
Well, here's the thing. This is what happens when these guys govern by polls, when they make decisions based on some sort of thing. Let's give a bill to a member of Congress from New York so that he can go campaign on it, no matter what's in it, because it says anti-Semitism in the title. That's what happened. We didn't put it through committee. We didn't have a chance to amend it, debate it, change it, think about it. We didn't have a hearing. They did it for political expediency. And political expediency is the ruin of the Republican Party. It's why the Republican Party is a vacuous shell. But I will tell you, Glenn, I was so proud of a block of our Republican colleagues who stood up and said no. Some of us voted against the ridiculous, foreign aid package last week that included funding for Israel, which ticked us off because they put us in a bad position having to vote against funding for Israel, which I support. But I voted against it because of what you want to talk about in next. It had tons of funding in there for Hamas, including the refugee program. So we vote against that bill. We have all of these, pro-Israel groups like AIPAC and all of these groups mad at us. And then they're getting all of our supporters that support Israel mad at us and our church friends. And we have to go out and explain it. And when we do, our people are generally with us. But then they make us take another vote yesterday. That's not leadership. But a block of Republicans stood up strong in the face of that, knowing they would take the arrows. I'm so proud of the courage of some Republicans that are finally showing the emperor has no clothes. We are making and laying bare what has been rotting in this godforsaken city in Washington, killing this country over the last 2 decades. We're not going to let them take our country from us, Glenn. We're going to keep fighting and exposing it.
So, Chip, I said last night to an audience, I said, I don't think we understand how close we are to winning. That there is a sea change. It's just taking a while, but there is a sea change, and this next election will either prove this out, or we collapse. But there are more Republicans in Congress and the Senate now than I've ever seen before that are actually standing up. I mean, I know it's not a lot, but 20 standing up is a good thing. Is a really good thing.
No, Glenn, I could not agree more. Now, this is you're taking a page out of the book that I use when I go out trying to explain to voters why they should be energized and care. Because you know what? When you look at it, superficially, you're really frustrated. You guys keep spending money. You're doing all this stuff, the foreign aid. But, man, you are right. You said it exactly right. We are so close to winning. The people are fed up. They've got a block of people here who are exposing the truth, and we are getting more people to join our ranks. We need to win more primaries, but importantly, because we're not going to get everybody elected through primaries to get the majority of freedom fighters that you and I would want out of the entire Republican conference, we need to lay down markers, what we demand of every Republican next January. Lord willing, we have President Trump and we have a Republican House and a Senate. We are going to demand these 10 things, or your head is on a freaking political platter, and you are no longer going to serve. That needs to be what we say, and we need to be clear about it. We need to be expressly clear about it in this election cycle, what we're going to demand of Republicans, because no more of this nonsense, no more unpaid for wars. And by the way, Glenn, you and I both adhere to the belief that a low, broad tax rate, getting government out of our lives, creates economic wealth, creates economic opportunity, right?
Yep.
But a lot of our rich folks, a lot of our, donor class, if I may say it, have been taking basically a free ride. They're okay saying, let's go have endless wars. Let's go send $175 billion to Ukraine over the last 2 years, and let's go do sending some more this fall. But they don't want to talk about, okay, what if I told you the top marginal rate is going to go up to 70% so you can pay for it? When I've said that to a few of them, they have a heart attack. I am tired of people getting a free ride, hiding behind, economic theories of low tax rates and the Laffer curve to go out there and say we should engage in endless wars like we have the last 25 years to the tune of $8.5 trillion, 70-something thousand injured Americans, 7-something thousand dead American men and women in uniform, because they don't want to have to, frankly, step up and own their part of it. So we got to have a real conversation between now and next year about what we want. But the freedom fighters in Congress right now, they are standing up, and God bless them. And we are making, and by the way, on the spending front, we kept the spending on the non-defense flat. The funding for defense that went up came out of the height of the IRS expansion. We passed the border security bill that's the best we've ever passed, and we took amnesty off the table. We got 7 appropriations bills passed last year, 1,100 amendments. We've exposed a lot, including, by the way, last point, sorry for the filibuster, last September, 3 weeks before what happened in Israel, we had a vote to defund UNRWA. 8 Republicans voted against it, killing it. And 3 weeks later, we see UNRWA-funded terrorists killing, raping, and maiming Israelis in October. Guess what? By this spring, we defunded UNRWA. Where were those Republicans last September? That's what I want us to focus on, shining the light on the Republicans who have been messing this up for too long.
When are you going to release that list?
Well, it's out. It's public. I can put that out there. Look, there are several other amendments, and we should do that. We should show the amendments we forced votes on last year, like the kill switch. There were 17 or 19, I can't remember, Republicans who killed our amendment to kill the kill switch, right? You have the kill switch that will shut your car down because the government says so, because your eyes are darting around or whatever, makes your car more expensive, total anti-freedom, and makes your car more expensive. But 19 Republicans, I think, or 17, killed that. So we should expose all of those. Look, I'm proud of my votes. Some of them are tough votes. We've got, I've got some police bills for Police Week coming up. Believe this or not, they're going to put a bill in the Judiciary Committee and then send it to the floor that uses the commerce power to say that if you're a cop killer and a Soros DA is not prosecuting you, that the federal government, that is the Department of Justice, can come into your state and prosecute the crime.
No.
Now, Glenn, right. Glenn, you get it. You and I both hate cop killers. You and I would sentence them to death tomorrow. But you can't empower the Department of Justice through the Commerce Clause to come in and federalize criminal law. So I'm going to offer an amendment that says, okay, if you want to do it for cops, why not nurses? Why not doctors? Why not clergy? You want to federalize all of that law, then you do it. Because you know what? The cop groups are already sending letters against me saying you're opposing this bill that is strong for law enforcement. No, I'm trying to protect freedom so that you are free to be able to go do your job without the federal government coming in using the Commerce Clause to interject into states, even if it's for supposedly a good reason.
Let me go back to the refugees, the Palestinian refugees that Egypt won't accept, that we're now taking in.
Yep.
Tell me about this program.
Well, we're still learning about what they're saying, but the Biden administration putting together a program to funnel Palestinian refugees here, as you noted, right now, all of these Arab countries are refusing to take them. And the problem is 75% of these Palestinians, these refugees, are basically sympathetic with Hamas by any objective measure of polling. And frankly, a lot of these civilians have participated in the terrorist activities. So now we're going to funnel refugees into the United States, by the way, using the funds that were just funded in the foreign aid bill last week. That's those of us who voted against told everybody there's $9 billion in here that's going to fund Hamas, fund refugee programs, go to the Palestinian stuff. Guess what? They're going to use that money in part to move people from Gaza to the United States. So guess what? Right now, while you've already got, I can't remember the exact number, something like 3 million people that have come to the United States from countries that sponsor terror since 9/11. We have opened up our doors and had all these people come to the United States, some of whom are great people and great Americans, want freedom and were fleeing terrible circumstances, some of whom are not great people. A lot of stuff that we did not do, the Afghani refugees, that we weren't doing any kind of real vetting on. We're on a ticking time bomb, and we're funding it. And by the way, Glenn, we have 51.5 million people in this country who are foreign-born. That is a higher percentage than we've ever had in the history of our country. And we are pumping in almost 1 million a year legally. Now you're going to add to that the refugee program on top of what the President Biden administration is doing, funneling people in across the border. And now the program you saw that has been exposed with the parolees that are being flown into cities directly to the tune of 200,000 that were flown in. That's what's happening to our country, and it's purposeful.
At what point? I've never seen clearer cases for impeachment than right now.
I mean, the President of the United States is clearly working to undermine every aspect of our rule of law, Constitution, sovereignty, the security of the American people on a daily basis, putting aside the Hunter Biden situation.
Yes.
Putting aside all of that, putting aside the family dealing. The fact of the matter is the buck stops with the president. And Alejandro Mayorkas and the entire DHS regime, of course we should impeach Mayorkas, but the buck stops with Biden. It is his administration that is ignoring the law. It is his administration that is using small pieces of the law to undermine our sovereignty and security, weaken us, and endanger us. It is because of him and his policies that Laken Riley is dead. That's just the truth. It's not like it's, you have war and some Americans die. Okay, it's hard. You're the president. You're just doing your job. No, he specifically has chosen to abuse the parole policies that were created on a case-by-case basis to help people. Like somebody who's sick with cancer, can they come here and see a loved one or go to MD Anderson or something on a case-by-case basis? Instead, they are flooding hundreds of thousands of people in violation of law, and he knows it, and they don't care. All of these are impeachable offenses. And to my Republican colleagues who say, no, it's not, that's maladministration, they're wrong. And
what the hell is impeachment for? If it's not for this kind of stuff, for the student loan forgiveness alone, $1.4 trillion that thing's going to cost in the end.
Yeah, no, I mean, you saw the same report that I just saw. I can't remember the outside group, the Committee for Fiscal Responsibility or whatever, studied it and said at a minimum $800 billion, as high as $1.4 trillion, which you and I both know means it'll be $1.4 trillion. And I saw a report the other day. It was like $6 billion that it did to fund, like I think it's for art, people with art degrees. Like,
yes,
we're just an insane people. Meanwhile, my wife, who grew up with a single mom in Texas and went to Texas A&M, went to UT for law school, chose to go there to have cheaper tuition instead of more expensive schools. She's still technically paying off the last parts of her student loans after literally 20 years since she graduated, because we've done it all the right way. But we're still driving 15-year-old cars and doing this. And by the way, that's not a woe is me thing. That's the American dream.
No.
Like, that's what you do. She worked hard. Her mom worked hard. Her grandfather worked hard so that she could experience that and be who she is and help me and support me. And I'm in Congress. We have great kids. And you know what? You're undermining the American dream when you do this crap.
Yes, you are.
And Republicans are guilty because we fund it.
Yep.
We just funded that stupid student loan program.
I've got to go, but thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you. Keep plowing through this crap and exposing the Republicans that need to be replaced. Thank you so much. Representative Chip Roy from Texas.